Hi, I will introduce some of the Danish plugs for electricity. In Denmark we use 230 volts, we used to use 220 volts, and all the plugs here are rated to 250 volts, typically 10 amps. So let's get started by showing one of the older plugs. I see we have the light here, I hope you can see. Here we have a typical Danish plugs, and if you see, the design is quite small, it's not so big. And this is a little older installation, not that old, but maybe 20-30 years. And while most of the plug in Europe agrees where the two pins for carrying electricity are, the ground pin varies a lot. And the Danish system is its own. It's not used by anyone else. It's also called the type K. Okay, so let's look at this first older system here when Denmark introduced ground plugs. Plugs with ground became mandatory in houses built after 1975, so the ground plug must be a little older than that, or maybe a lot older, I don't know. Well, let's see if we have something that will mate with this, make the connection. And I have a similar older plug here, and if we look, it goes in, and it's a little hard, but it's okay. And this is a little older version, so in this case, if we look at the ground, it's shorter than the two live pins, or live and neutral, or neutral or live. This one is the live one. And because of this, you're not sure that it has a ground connection when it's connected. But in Denmark it's not necessary with ground connection for safety. So as I will show more, it's not that important, it's not that big a deal for at least those who design plugs. Here I show a typical plug with no ground connection. This is a little newer one because it has plastic here. They did not used to have plastic here. And then it was a problem if you're a child with small fingers. Then your fingers can actually be like this. And when you make the connection, then you get shocked. If we see here, then there's quite a large room to get shocked. And then there's also the other stupid thing, because this is such a slim design, you can do this. And you get shocked here. So what they did was make this guy here. Because you cannot be sure that all plugs have these plastic pins. So they make this socket which is deeper, and it's child-proof. There's some shutters here, so I can't push it in here from this side. I need both, and it's pretty hard to put your fingers inside here. And what about the old plugs? Well, then they made the rule that if it can be turned off here, then it's okay, because then you're supposed to turn it off and then make your connection and then turn it on. So this means I have this from work, which they have to remove and replace with these guys here. They had to replace it with these because for this one you cannot turn off a single one. If let's say you have something important connected here, and then you want to plug in here, but you don't want it to be turned off, then you have to make the connection. Yeah. Not so smart. So, but this one is the one that's used today in new installation. Then there's more variations of the plug and socket. If we see this one here, then the pins are smaller. So if I take the one from before, it can't go in here. But if you have one that's specially made for it, I don't know, it's pretty hard to see, but the pins are the same shape. Then it can mate with it. But at the same time, it can mate with a standard socket. It's easier to do when it's in a wall. Okay. And the idea here is, this one is called EDB, which is the Danish word for IT. And this plug was supposed to be used only for the computer and other similar sensitive equipment. So this had to be clean electricity. You had a separate wire system for this. So you had specially clean electricity for the computer. And then your motors, for example, if you have an electric table to make smaller and taller, you didn't put on this, because this motor would make noise on the computer. It is still used today as a standard on all installation, all new installation, but it's not really that necessary anymore because computers has become more tolerant. But of course it means that since people still use it for all the computers, then if somebody does something stupid with the normal electricity and the fuse goes, or the breakers, if you make some connection to ground, it shuts off the electricity, then it doesn't shut off the computers, unless you do it of course with the computer electricity. So that's nice. There's a similar plug for hospital equipment. This is pretty hard to see and I don't have the corresponding socket, but it's flat here. And it's the same idea, specially clean electricity. For hospitals it's extra super clean. So there's a lot of rules of which equipment you can connect to this super clean electricity. And typically this super clean electricity is also with backup power with a diesel generator, and you put all your life support equipment on this. And at the same time it still mates with a usual circuit. Especially for the hospital plug is that even though it mates with a usual circuit, the rule says you are not allowed to do it because the connection is not so good. Okay. And Danish plugs cost somewhere between 2 times and 4 times more than similar German or French plugs. So in 2008 they finally made a decision to allow French plugs. And the reason why they allowed French plugs is that everything sold in Denmark have this hybrid plug. Just a moment. What? Almost all electricity plugs you find in equipment sold to all consumer equipment is with this hybrid plug between the German and French system. I just bought a refrigerator which has this plug, and the big problem with it is it works. So the consumer is happy until the day when they touch both the refrigerator and radiator and get 115 volts of shock, and just a little, not enough to cut the circuit, just enough so it's really annoying. But yeah, and at the same time your speakers in your stereo makes a lot of sound, and if you don't have the proper plugs, which is very common, you know, a lot of noise, I mean. Yeah. So and at the same time the Danish plugs cost these 2 to 4 times more. So they decided first to make the French system legal to install in Denmark. And the reason why they make the French system and not the German is that if you have this plug, which I just showed you earlier, is that it can't mate with the German plug, the standard Danish for just 2 connection here. Actually it's even worse, that because if you press really hard it can, and then you break the plastic and they might expose the live wires. But since Denmark is so close to Germany, it makes much more sense to allow the German. They allowed the French in 2008, and in 2011 they allowed the German plug. And to fix this problem, then all new plugs are of this type, which is just a little slimmer. So it actually can make, of course all the old plugs still can. But then the German one became legal. But so far I haven't seen it sold anywhere in Denmark except for camping equipment and disco equipment that for some reason really like to use the German plug. Yes, and a little other detail I would like to show is that in Denmark it's because ground is not necessary for safety, then it's perfectly okay to make a plug where the ground is missing here. Yes, I think that is all. Yep, thanks for watching.